Welcome to Innovate State. This is the second Innovate State of the fall 2019 semester. I appreciate so many Spartans and students joining us here this evening. And of course, if you might recall or might not recall, we are in fact in a brand new space, the Gainer Entrepreneurship Lab here in the Minskoff Pavilion of MSU's campus. My name is Chris Sell. I lead alumni engagement for the Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And I want to thank the MSU Alumni Office and our colleagues with the Broad College of Business for helping provide the video team here tonight so that we can, in fact, archive this footage and share it and repurpose it and share it with Spartans all across the globe. I really appreciate that. For those of you that are tuning in on social media for tonight's engagement, feel free to follow along by using the hashtag InnovateState. We use that on Twitter and Instagram, so feel free to use that hashtag when kind of contributing to tonight's online conversation about some of the knowledge that you're going to be absorbing during tonight's presentation. Also, tonight's presentation is going to be recorded as a Hatchcast. Who is a Hatchcast follower? Anyone in the room? I like it. We got some faithful fans in the back. For those of you wondering what is Hatchcast, that is indeed a podcast that's produced by students in the Burgess Institute program, in the Hatch program. And we are in season 4 of the Hatchcast. You can find podcasts featuring accomplished Spartan alumni, innovators, entrepreneurs, and some of our students and staff through this podcast that we push out throughout the academic year. And you can find Hatchcast episodes on Stitcher, Apple devices, wherever you find your podcasts, you can find us there. So if you like How I Built This with Guy Raz, NPR, anybody? How I Built This? Yeah, love it. So it's like our own little version of How I Built This, right? And it's an amazing opportunity to hear from some really cool people that we've brought to campus in the last couple of years who spend some additional time with us and answer more of our questions about how they built their respective ventures. So please tune in there if you haven't already. So again, tonight is Innovate State number 2 of the fall semester. We've got another one in a few short weeks on October 23rd, 2 weeks from tonight. It's featuring Mike Miller. Mike Miller is from the San Francisco, actually Seattle area, but he is a physicist turned entrepreneur, got his physics undergraduate degree here at MSU before going to Yale for his PhD, and then he ended up co-founding IBM Cloud, which is kind of a cool thing. And now he actually manages a venture capital fund with Joe Montana. Yes, that Joe Montana who played for the San Francisco 49ers NFL football team. And so Mike is flying in from Seattle 2 weeks from today and going to drop some knowledge. So if you are planning to come to more of these, I would definitely come in 2 weeks. Bring your friends. Tell your other students and friends to be here because that's going to be an amazing conversation. If you are wondering, how do I get involved with entrepreneurship at MSU? We've got some student organizations that are perfect for you. Who are my WE members? Raise your hands. I love it. Membership, we started about 4 years ago, 3 years ago-ish, 5. Yeah, that too. And WE is one of several different student orgs and clubs on campus, including MSU EA, MSU MBA, EA, whatever we call it. It's a really big acronym. In other words, we have a lot of opportunities for you to get involved. We members are here. We've got the eBoard members here, and they do lots of cool site visits, industry trips, mix and mingles. They had an opportunity to spend some exclusive time with Sheela earlier this evening. They do some really cool annual trips in the spring. It's a great community to get involved, learn more about entrepreneurship. And if you don't have an idea for a company, no worries at all. That is not a prerequisite to be a member of one of our clubs or student orgs. It's just a great way to get involved and learn more about the space. So I'd highly encourage you to seek out, again, our friends over here that raised their hands earlier tonight. They're always welcoming of new members. Or if you want to talk to staff, we can get you plugged in. East Lansing Startup Weekend. It's the other big thing I want to promote. That is happening October 18th through the 20th. Anyone here in the room participate in a Startup Weekend before? Yeah, I like it. All of you? That's perfect. So Startup Weekend is an opportunity for you to start a business in 54 hours. So let's say you have an idea for the next biggest, coolest idea or the next best, awesome business, but you need some team members. Or maybe you need some folks to help you round out that idea, validate it. Well, you can come with your awesome ideas to the Gainer Lab, the room we're sitting in right now, on Friday, October 18th. And for a really small fee of what is it, $25? We're going to feed you all weekend. and you get a chance to pitch your idea to all the other folks. We'll probably have a crowd of 70, 80, 90 people here in a few weeks. And the top vote-getting ideas then get turned into business concepts within 54 hours. And then the teams get to pitch your business idea on Sunday to a panel of judges, and we hand out prizes and food. And are we doing really cool things like huge baskets of... Yeah, okay. I won't talk about that. We'll just tease you right there and say, please be here October 18th. If you haven't signed up and want more information, come find me or Aaron or Aubrey, and we'll give you all the details at some point tonight. Lastly, tonight's format, again, is a Q&A, and it's going to be a chance for my colleague Aaron. I'm going to introduce him in a moment. He's going to be interviewing our speaker, but they're also going to turn it over to you. So if you've got pre-prepared questions, maybe jot them down or don't forget them, and you're going to get that opportunity to ask Sheela here in a moment. Sound good? Capiche? Beautiful. I love it. So first and foremost, I want to introduce my colleague, Aaron. Aaron is the communications manager for the Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship Innovation. A writer, a poet, a storyteller, and a massive fan of entrepreneurs. Aaron drives both the strategy and the message, communicating our stories to our most valued audiences. He may be a Colorado State University alumnus. I won't hold that against him, but we're proud. He certainly bleeds green and white. If you can all join me welcoming Aaron to the front of the room here.
Thank you, Chris.
And then now, for our esteemed guests, I'd like to introduce Sheela. Sheela has more than 20 years of experience in building and implementing educational technology solutions in K-12 classrooms. At CueThink, Sheela and her team have successfully taken the vision of a peer platform for math problem solving and built and deployed a scalable application to foster critical thinking and collaboration skills. As founder and CEO, Sheela has been instrumental in securing $3 million from the National Science Foundation. So for all of you in the room, maybe you have built or are thinking about building some type of ed tech solution, National Science Foundation money is a huge deal. She's definitely a resource that you can be talking to about that. The New Schools Venture Fund, Mass Ventures, and angel investors. She has been successful in fostering partnerships with leading math groups and selling to school districts across the country. Prior to CueThink, Sheela was project director at Pearson Education, focusing on tech innovative assessment items based on Common Core state standards. Before that, Sheela was the director of technology at CAST, where she spearheaded numerous technical products, including CAST e-reader and the Thinking Reader. She has been a member of various consortiums. She's been a podcaster for the Stanford Business School Center for Social Innovation. And of course, she is a proud alumna of Michigan State University, having graduated from the College of Education with a master's degree in educational psychology in 1997. She was explaining to me that this is just one of a few times she's been able to be back to campus since graduating just a few years ago in 1997. And again, she flew in from Boston. She's thrilled to be here. So if you can all join me in welcoming Sheela to the front of the room.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Sheila, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Before we get started, a welcome everybody. I get to say hi, welcome, welcome. If all of you could just sort of stand up for just 1 second. And I want you to reach to the sky. And I want you to shake your hands. All right, then touch your toes, but don't hit your head on the desks. Okay, okay, good. If you can't touch your toes, that's okay. You're doing something called Simon Says. Only Aaron says. And this sort of shakes away the I'm asleep tonight, okay? Because you just had carbs and cheese, so that's bad. All right, have a seat. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sheela. So again, throughout this, I'm going to ask some questions, and then when Sheela is tired of talking to me, we're going to hand it over to you a couple of times. And so be prepared. I might just point at you, and if you don't have a question, I'm going to make you have a question. Are you ready? Is everybody ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So Sheela, I don't want to assume that any of the individuals seated here paid attention to Chris's introduction of you. Can you tell everybody here what, in a few words, what CueThink is, and what do you do there?
How many words?
5.
Oh, 5, gosh. It's a problem-solving application.
Oh, wow, nicely done.
All right. So CueThink is a platform, a technology platform, that helps students in K through 12 to tell math stories, if you will. Students are structured through the process of a problem-solving experience with math problems. They draw and create and explain their solutions in the form of what we call a thinklet. So they take tools that's on the screen as well as their voices, and with that they essentially show their solution. They then share it with peers as well as with their teachers. And the idea really is to get into the thinking of a student as to how they are processing information and how they are communicating it, rather than just their final solution, which is what often teachers see. So it's a pretty innovative technology, and I'll talk about the blessings and curse of creating innovative solutions through the course of our conversation. But that's what the application does.
And are you comfortable with CEO title? Or do you prefer founder, or do you?
Just struggler is probably a good enough title as any. No, I'm fine with anything. I think founder definitely is something I wear with pride. CEO is just the necessary, job.
Fair.
Nobody else wanted it, so
So it by default.
by default I became the CEO.
So thank you. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in India, in a place called Chennai. I studied there for most of my schooling, and then went to another little town in the south of India for my engineering degree in electronics and communication. I then decided I didn't want to be an engineer. It was before the time of sort of really good interdisciplinary engineering curriculum that was pretty boring initial journey. So I went to something pretty dramatic. Wanted to do film and video production. I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. So I went to New Delhi, where I studied. And after that, I said I wanted to sort of do a little bit more in the area of media and communication, and looked at universities in and around the US, and found Michigan State as one of the sort of top universities doing some pretty cool stuff in research, researching sort of media effects and so on. So applied and got in here for a PhD program. So I actually came into the communications department at first. Had some remarkable teachers. Anybody here in the communications? Yeah, okay, a bunch, awesome. Yeah, so great program, loved it, but wanted to really finish up and get into a job. If you see, I've been studying for a very long time, and so I decided to switch to the education department because I wanted to sort of bring my technology skills along with my media, but apply it in the service of education and learning. So sort of landed there. In the 1.5 years, I switched 2 departments, so it's pretty ambitious. And graduated out with a master's, as he said, in ed psych, but with also a minor in education technology. So again, great professors, real innovative, vision, ideas. Education department here, anyone? From the College of Ed? No, not as many.
What?
Okay. So check it out. It's a great place. There,
Chris
is like everything. He's like, but yeah. So that sort of was my trajectory coming into Michigan State. So it's been a phenomenal sort of journey at that point and then beyond as well. So I love this place. I mean, you're super fortunate to be in this campus and especially this, the building. So I'm sure you're making the best of it. That's awesome. We didn't have this in 1997, so.
I find many alums saying that, and sort of grieving that they aren't in your shoes at this moment.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But I'm sure you guys are making great use of it, so kudos.
Can you tell us a little bit about the intersections between between engineering and then video production and audio production and then communications? Like that sounds.
It's convoluted, yeah.
But
sure.
but I think there's intersectionality there.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, I think those of you are engineers in the room here as well. Any? A bunch. Okay. So I mean, with engineering, one of the big advantages is that you get trained in being analytical, right? You learn to be problem solvers. Sort of really think about how to break apart a problem and an issue and put it together. So I think that's a fundamental skill that is beneficial no matter what. I'm sure a business degree comes with its own set of, advantages or things that you get trained in, whether you go into business or not. So engineering gave me that. As I said, I didn't want to go into programming or electronics at that point and wanted to do media. But coming back full circle, and in a sense, MSU sort of made me connect the dots because I love the technology aspect, but then I was also creating a lot of media environments, doing sort of early hypercard games and web games and all that stuff. So there was a technology, but you always have to be telling stories. And I'm sure even as business majors, you're a storyteller. You're telling stories as a marketer, you're telling story as a salesperson. So I was just using media to do that. And then when the sort of education element was essentially saying, how do you teach with those skills? How do you, move the needle on learning for students and maybe even for teachers? So that was the sort of connection after the fact.
After the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose when you're in the thick of it, you don't know, you can't really see it because you're in it.
Right.
But then you're like, this makes complete sense. How did growing up in India shape you and your mindset and prepared you to be an entrepreneur later in life?
So I'm sure you know many entrepreneurs from just sort of various diverse backgrounds, and particularly I think in the US now you see a lot of Indian American entrepreneurs coming to the fore. I think what's one of the traits that we might share is just resilience and the ability to work really hard coming from an immigrant community and coming into a new space, which I'm sure a number of you have. You don't have anything given to you. You have to sort of start from ground zero and work your way up. And that's fundamentally what entrepreneurship is. You absolutely, you might have some seed funding, you might have a little, idea, but then you sort of have to build up from that. So I think the work ethics, the tenacity, the never say no, right? All of those things that I think you're also experiencing or thinking of as you become entrepreneurs in your own way, were things I benefited from coming as an immigrant into this country.
How do you define entrepreneur?
Someone who's always innovating, thinking out of the box potentially, and trying to solve problems, but with an idea of finding the end user to benefit. It's okay to have built a little shiny widget or something and then hope and pray that someone will come, but often that doesn't happen. So sort of the marriage between an idea and then its use, right? So an entrepreneur is, I think, someone who's constantly thinking about that, whether it's with their ideas or someone else's. How did they build it? How did this work? What was their pitch, etc.
So when you came to MSU, you sort of begin finding your own path. Reflecting on your experience at State, how did that experience help you ground yourself as an entrepreneur? What did you learn specifically here that you don't think you could have fostered elsewhere?
Sure. So I think it was the nature of my work, being in the communications and then the education department. Entrepreneurship is extremely multidisciplinary, right? You really don't have one set of skills that you bring, no matter what your aptitude, whether you want to go into design or build or sales. You need to know a little bit of everything, really. So in some sense, coming as I did and working in being in two different departments and working with professors who really, crossed over, they were instrumental in telling me it's okay to be thinking diverse, big, multidisciplinary. Today it's a catchphrase. You're thinking all the time about interdisciplinary, environments. But those days it was just you're sort of in silos. But I was able to sort of branch across and also, benefited from professors who encouraged that, leveraging activities in one department, applying it to another. And that really is what entrepreneurship is. Just when you think you've sort of figured out how to manage your team in developing, you have to now figure out how to work with partners. That's a very different entity. You've got to learn how to, talk to customers. And I'm talking sort of in my role as a CEO. You have to sort of literally take on and put on these hats all the time. So it benefits, when you think of sort of minors that you have, and the more you can be multidisciplinary within reason, not be all over the place, of course, it's only going to hone your entrepreneurial skills.
When did you go, aha, I'm an entrepreneur?
The first time I got rejected by an investor.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, how many? There have been so many times. It was pretty much an ongoing theme for a very long time. So we were lucky, as Chris said in the beginning. We got raised pretty much our entire round of investments from National Science Foundation. I had worked in a company where I had learned how to get grants from NSF and NIH and Department of Education, but we were an engine. There were 10 of us working to bring in money. When I left and I started this company on my own, I was a solo founder. a side note, never become a solo founder. Find someone to co-found a company.
Why?
Because it's a very lonely journey. You talk to yourself all the time and people think you're nuts. So you really don't want to do that, right? I mean, you do that anyways, but just not for this reason. So basically, I decided to apply. Took a wild shot at applying to the National Science Foundation. Very intimidating, right? Lots of hoops to cross and just logistics and crazy stuff. And voila, we got awarded. We got this sort of idea of building a peer-to-peer problem-solving application with capturing student thinking resonated with them. Now, subsequently, I'm a reviewer for NSF grants. I've been reviewing grants for a long time now. I'm on the review committee. So I know how NSF thinks, right? At that point, we just took a wild guess. We then actually went back to NSF a second time and raised another $1 million. So our first $1 million came from them, and then we raised another $1 million, and then we got another $500,000 now. So again, we've learned how to, and it was all pretty much solo effort on my part. So I think when we went in front of angel investors, though, I'm in an education technology space, which is really hard to sell in. And so investors have a very high bar for what constitutes sort of your validation metrics. And so we are getting there now, but at this point, we are pretty much saying we don't want investor money. As we have grants and we have customers, so we are good. But those early days, we didn't have those validation points, so we didn't really have investor traction. We did have some pretty brave early investors who were passionate about our passion and they invested, so that was exciting. We were part of an accelerator program called Learn Launch out in Boston. If any of you want to become entrepreneurs, an accelerator and incubator, even outside, I know MSU has them as well, but outside of it is also really a good idea because you get essentially a peer group of people who think and act, in those spaces. So yeah, I mean, I think we've had a lot of rejections and some successes, and it hasn't deterred us. Myself and my team passionately believes in the idea. I think that's the underlying thing. You got to believe in it when everyone else says this doesn't make sense, because you know that to be true. In my case, I have an experience of education and I knew that this sort of made sense. Early customer validation. Every time we've had rejections, there's been a customer who said, "Oh my God, this is like so amazing. We love the product." That's kind of pushed us forward. So that validation really, helped when the investors said no. We are like, well, maybe not now, but we know it's going to work. And that's pretty much how we've continued. The ups and downs of this, the trajectory is like this, mostly always down, with one big blip maybe a couple of times, like success. NSF funding, great. The other thing that's a big highlight for our company is the 10th largest school district in the country adopted us, our product, for a 7-year period. So we went from literally 0 to 100 with that purchase. A huge customer of ours. And we were, of course, like, this is exciting, but this is also scary, and it's going really well, the deployment. But again, another big blip, and then many small things, but a lot of things that don't work. But as an entrepreneur, the thing you need to say is, I believe in this, and I surround myself with people who will ask tough questions, but ultimately believe in it with me, whether they are advisors or partners, and then go for it, right? So we did that, and here we are.
Listening to your response, what occurs to me is that we have a couple of things, well, many actually. So loneliness, and one of the things that I think incubators and accelerators do really well is to create community. Mm-hmm. And it pulls you out of that loneliness.
Right.
How are you risk tolerant, risk intolerant? How does that figure into community? How do you depend on your community to succeed?
Yeah, so I'm pretty risk tolerant. I can handle risk. I wouldn't be here if we didn't. Every few months, we would have indications that suggest this isn't going to go anywhere, right? We would either keep running out of money, or we'd have an important customer reject, or something else happen. And then we would sort of say, okay, what do we do now? Is this even the right thing? Is this where we need to go? But as I said, we'll have some proof points that suggest, maybe they're not ready yet, but they will be. So that our product is very bleeding edge, which is, as I said, good, because it's a very noisy space, the math space with technology solutions. and we continue to stand out, right? But we continue to stand out is also a negative in that it's taken a long time to educate our customers and other investors and so on. So you want to make that balance between something that's so on the edge versus something that's like, oh, this looks like something else. Why are you doing this? You want to be a little bit on the edge, but not too much. But in terms of sort of the community aspect of it, so I talk to a lot of other peer founders, men and women. Obviously, with the women founders, I have a particular affinity because some of our challenges have been unique. But really, CEOs or founders like mine with the same size, same kind of ideas, and we'll chat over coffee. I'll say, hey, I'm having a problem with the sales model, or how are you thinking about it? So that's how I've been able to get by without having a co-founder. But again, I strongly encourage you all, someone who's a friend, someone whom you respect, someone who challenges you, but also at the same time really both of you buy into it, or three of you. I have seen companies that have like 5, 6 co-founders. I think that might be a bit much. It's a lot to manage, like so many different personalities and priorities. Right now, as a solo founder, I can call a lot of the shots, but the buck stops with me. If we make the mistake, it's completely on me, which I'm okay with. I just think that energy of a co-founder means you're traveling the journey together. So, but I've been able to build a community. It's taken more time, but that relationship's important.
Why math?
Why math? Because I think, it's one of the fundamental subject matters. Problem solving is uniquely hard for students. And teachers actually find it hard to teach problem solving right from the very young age. So again, math is so stereotypically, if you do 20 problems, in a worksheet, you learn the math. Well, ours is completely opposite. You do one problem really deeply and well, and you're likely to understand the structure, the framework, and how to apply that to a new problem, to a different problem. That's a huge mind shift for teachers. So I think what we've done in math, we can apply to science, to engineering, design, other process-driven models. But there's plenty of challenges in the math space that we have to conquer. So,
I will admit that I was listening to Freakonomics before coming in tonight. Anybody else a Freakonomics podcast listener? Oh, it's so good. The latest was talking about how mathematics taught today in the U.S., we're just not doing it. We're not doing it right. And it's really hard to change that paradigm. Right. And you've got layers of bureaucracy, right? So you've got curriculum. What are you going to take out of the curriculum? Mm-hmm. How do you help what's your vision for helping school districts to address those what's the word I'm looking for? Those hurdles to shift us into something.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time, right? And there are some pretty significant, for instance, the Gates Foundation and the Zuckerberg, Foundation have put together a new grant opportunity, several tens of millions of dollars to do some of that shift. So you do need investments coming in from successful foundations, so on, to inject into the school districts. And then you need solutions, ours being one, but many others. But you also need to give the teachers and administrators the time and the support. We sell into public schools. It's the hardest group to sell to, not because they are difficult, just because they have so much going on. It would have been easy to take an education technology product and sell it to a private school because they have the money, it's easy, or charter schools because there's not a lot of barriers. We challenged ourselves because we knew that's where the biggest need is. And when we've seen the results, it's been remarkable, right? So I think it takes a lot of different, like it takes a village to raise a child. Similarly, it takes a lot of different players to help move the needle on public education. We're all, I think, recipients of it and have benefited from it, but some change is necessary, and it's only going to be, coming in stages.
And the other point that was brought up in this interview was that math is, the way that we teach it now sort of silos folks, right? But if you bring people together to have interactivity and students are solving problems together, that sort of broadens the skill reach.
Right. So there's the math content and then the math communication. the goal is to really make every student be a mathematician rather than just solving math on a paper. So what is a mathematician? They are learning how to analyze problems. They're learning how to critique the reasoning of their peers. There's a lot of skills that a mathematician brings to bear that we need to teach our students. And in a sense, some of what our platform is doing is that.
I'll pause here for a moment. Any questions in the audience? Burning questions?
I'd love to hear.
Farzana.
I'm just wondering, the platform you have right now, a teacher in the classroom, use that for everyday teaching, or is just the extra tool for that?
Yeah, it's an extra supplemental tool. It's not an everyday teaching. Some teachers use it that way. It's often an end of unit to assess if the students have learned the unit. It's a culminating problem set. Teachers might divide the students into smaller groups, work with them through the week. It's a product that requires some involvement. They will then take the artifacts of the student work and showcase it to everyone to show them what a good solution looked like and what maybe some missteps were in the solution. So again, you have those artifacts now which make it easy. So I would say once every couple of weeks, maybe three weeks or so, it gets used. Yeah.
You mentioned
Hold on for just a second. We need a mic. I can run after you.
I got it. Maybe we just repeat questions after.
You're making Chris run.
So you're not watching me spring across the room.
It's the most entertaining part of the night.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned targeting public schools because that's where the need is, but I know that can be difficult with like funding. So a lot of them are losing money and everything. So has your company done anything to combat that specifically, like business sponsorships or anything like that, to make sure that the community is coming together around this?
Right. So that's a great question. Individually, as a supplemental product, which is what ours is, we get affected by funding a lot. We don't have the money for it. It's just a product on the side. So one of the things we're doing is to figure out strategic partnerships, right? So there's a core curriculum, which is like a textbook or something like that, and it doesn't have all the features. Our unique product can really marry and mix well with other core curriculum. For the longest time, we said that is our biggest value add. We can work with any curriculum. How cool. But for the teachers, that was like, that's too much. Well, how does it work with my particular curriculum? Show me and match it together so I don't have to do the work of matching, right? So because we had the successful customer, the first sort of real big validation, it drew attention of a lot of prospective partners. Up until then, nobody paid attention to us. We were a little tiny thing working in a garage somewhere. But that sort of landed, so talking about leverage and how in an entrepreneurial journey, you will have like so many downs, and then there's one big thing comes, right? You want to take that and really leverage it. So that really let us open up the doors to partnership conversations. And I'm happy to report probably in a couple of weeks we'll be announcing a big one. So that to me is as I was telling someone I think before, what we are really good at is building the product and the sort of pedagogy and educational design around it and the training. But we need to leverage other people's sales and marketing strengths, because selling to schools is all about relationships and who you know. It's like big enterprise sales, like things like IBM and all do, and it would take us years to build that. So partnering would be one of our strategies, and they have the ins into those, and schools have money. Trust me, when they say they don't, it's only because you haven't convinced them that your product is worth the money. Right? I understand there are many schools that have serious deficits, but they have enough to pay for the things that really matter, many schools, right? And we would obviously target them. So I think when they say there isn't money, it really is that you haven't proven that you have a good enough product for us. Right?
I want to go back for 1 second and talk about, so many students in this room, they may not necessarily be, I am an entrepreneur, I am going to go and I'm going to start my own company. That's okay, by the way. We encourage you to be entrepreneurs as well. But for us, as we teach entrepreneurship, it's about the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Can you describe what the entrepreneurial mindset is to you and how it plays out?
Sure. I think the first element is the ability to take risks, right? So we all, I'm sure everyone's graduating either next year or in a few years, and you kind of want to start with maybe a safe place, and that's okay, the first place you go to. But after that, you need to stick your neck out And even if it's in your company, I'll give you an example. My very first company that I went to after Michigan State was a company called CAST, Center for Applied Special Technology. Great people, innovative solutions, loved the place, stayed there for years. I cut my teeth there, I loved it. And they had a lot of different technologies, but they were prototypes. It was not unified under one sort of technology platform and umbrella. And so I said to the higher ups, I think you need to do that. And they're like, okay, well, and they kind of waited for me to say, and I said, okay, and I will take up the job of making that happen, right? I had no idea how I was going to go about it, but that sort of entrepreneurial risk taking, not knowing, but still saying, I'll figure it out, but let me start because I've found the problem. And in a startup, that's always true. When my team members now come to me and say, hey, I think you should do this, I'll say, great, do it, right? And I think that we need to in a startup. No one else is going to do it otherwise. So risk taking is critical. Calculated risks, of course, is part of it as well. But the other thing is, I think, really having and seeking mentors in all of your journeys, because you cannot go through this alone. It's a very lonely journey, again, whether you're an entrepreneur or not at this point. So finding the people who can get you to the next step. And as I was telling someone, also keeping them in the loop. It's real important that they be regularly updated, because that's the piece we miss, right? We have to update investors all the time because they've given us money. They want to know it's being spent wisely. When it's not spent, they want to know why. But the same thing, your well-wishers, your people who've invested in you or supported you or connected you, that's an entrepreneurial mindset. Sort of keeping in mind that you are not alone. You need to build networks, and those networks are valuable, and you need to nurture them. That's key. The third is, again, I think the multidisciplinary aspect of your life. So doing a little bit, I was talking to someone now, she's a life coach, but she's also into marketing and into photography. So really connecting a lot of different pieces, and there is a story in there. And so when you start to do interesting things, you'll find that there are no silos. You need to know what that, the accounting challenges, or you need to know how to market this. Marketing seems to be everyone's job. We all have to market something, including ourselves. So the multidisciplinary piece is critical in this. I think those might be some three things, like risk-taking, mentorship. I'm just sort of speaking off the top of my head, but I don't know. I'm sure you guys have others too. I'll be happy to hear and respond.
Anybody have a response? Do you feel like that hit the nail on the head?
Does that resonate with folks?
We have nods. That's good. They're still awake.
Okay.
So let's talk about startups and how they go from tiny to scale. What does that journey look like, and how harrowing is it? And have you ever had a moment where you're like, this is going to go belly up?
Yeah, no, I think it depends on what you want. Some of you will want a lifestyle business where you're happy with like it being small but sustained and continuous, and that's perfectly fine. And others want to become the next Mark Zuckerberg, right? And that's huge. And there's often something in between the two that works. So, I mean, in our mind, as I said, we realized fairly, a little while ago that our strengths are this. And either we could go it alone to build out the rest of our business to scale, or we could partner up. And we are choosing the partner route because I think we can go to scale faster. Being really understanding sort of what your unique value is in the marketplace and how to sort of mesh that with something that's bigger. There's nothing wrong with partnerships. Strategic partners are some of the most strongest sort of value adds to a business. So thinking about that is great. And how harrowing is it? It's harrowing like anything else. You're putting your money, you're taking others' money, and you're putting that into your dream. You're taking a whole bunch of people for the ride with you. You're telling them it's going to be awesome. So you have a lot riding on it. So again, I think fundamentally believing in it is key. I have had burnouts, significant burnouts at various times, and have had to recover from that as a way of saying, okay, this is still important, and then something positive would happen, and then sort of re-energize. But I think that's just par for the course. You have to have the stomach for it. I didn't think I did. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I would have been very comfortable working in a big company, but I wanted to build something and see what happened, whether I had it in me to do it. So I said, let me try it out, and I had the support of the family and everything else, and so that made it easier. you're all in your lives where, if you have the opportunity or you can find it, go for it, because it's extremely satisfying to see a germ of an idea suddenly sort of become real, and then have people use it and talk about it, and there's nothing that sort of competes with that.
Our accelerator program manager talked about one of the most important things to taking your product to market is to get your MVP, or your minimum viable product, into the hands of your potential customer, or discovering, well, maybe that's not the customer, and this is. What did your what did your MVP look like?
So that's a great question, and something I would not suggest any of you do. We went on all the way beyond minimum viable to a super viable and triple viable and so on, because it wasn't viable. We just had the money, so we kept building, right? So I think you need to have that discipline, and actually that would be an entrepreneurial mindset, is to have the discipline to say, draw the line. This is truly an MVP. I need to get this in the hands of the people I'm going to sell to or who are going to use it. I need to learn as many lessons as I can now before I spend more money, time, energy, etc. We had the luxury of some of the initial funding, and we said we'll go keep building, right? It was one of my investors who told me one day, you don't have your feet to the fire that says you need to bring in money now vis-a-vis sales, so that's why you keep building the product. Go find out how this thing is going to sell and who wants to buy it, right? What does it even matter? So I think doing that early is important. We did not. We did it after, and then we, of course, kept scrambling. That's something I would do differently. I would definitely understand what the market looks like and where I'm selling and whether they want to buy and what else is going on in that ecosystem is so key. And now that we know so much of that, we're like, oh, okay, so it fits in there, but it doesn't work there. You don't want to have like several years before that's figured out.
Anybody questions? What excites you most about, what gets you out of bed and you're like, I am heading to work on this product, I'm working on my company. What gets you out of bed?
For me, it's cliched as it would be, it's my team. So we were very meticulous in putting a team together that had the same passion. Not necessarily the same ideas or did not necessarily agree with everything that we said. In fact, we have a ton of disagreements. But fundamentally, we all sort of want kids to have a greater experience with math learning. We want teachers to feel better empowered and more confident about teaching math. So there was a common sort of understanding. So when once one of us say that's our mission, everybody else goes, yeah, of course it is our mission, right? So hiring early as an executive, I have the difficult job of bringing on people and they need to be the right fit, because unlike a big company where you can go for several months or even years with mediocre or average workers, in a startup company, everyone has to work to their utmost, and then some. So we work really hard to bring the right people in, and they really are the ones that keep me excited, because they're innovative, they think out of the box, they challenge me, and I'm sure you all will, recruit people in various streams, and I think that's important, is to take the time to hire right, because that is the difference between sort of really getting up every day and going to work and not. It's not even the idea sometimes, it's who you work with. And it may not be your colleagues now. I mean, it'd be nice if all your MSU friends came along for the ride in the same place, but that's unlikely. So find people that challenge you, but at the same time, are aligned with you. And for a startup, that's even more important. So that's definitely one.
Last season, when we had our first guest, Shaniqua Davis, I asked her this question, and it's something that sort of bothers me about, even as a communicator and storyteller and who loves glossy photos. It feels in many cases it's easy to make entrepreneurship in a 400-word article with really great stock photography, to make it look easy and glossy and great, and everything is coming up roses. Something about that tells me that's false.
Yeah.
Working with the entrepreneurs that I do every day, it tells me that's false. Can you talk about the reality versus the imagined entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is 9 out of 10, startups fail. And in fact, they fail for any number of reasons. I think product market fit is the fundamental cause. And the other reason is because you burn through money really quickly, right? So you have to shut down. You go this close and you say, now I see a breakthrough, but now I have to shut down because we've run out of money. So being really frugal is key. And as I said, product market fit. So there were companies that rose with us in the accelerator program. Many have closed down. I think it's remarkable that there have been so many, and the lessons learned can only help with the next venture. But here we are, right? There is an adage that says grow big or go home. Like investors really want you to fire on all cylinders and either decide that it works, and if not, then be done and go bust. In our model, we of course go slow, and we haven't gone home yet. So I think that's a good thing. But so I think there is a myth. It's not glossy for us. There has to be a passion. It has to be something that we feel like if we don't do it, who else will? And really, all your Zuckerbergs and the Elon Musks and everybody, ultimately, that none of them really care. I think about sort of that sort of after, right? It's about if I don't do it, who else will? In your own little way, I'm obviously nothing compared to that level, but I strongly believe that if I didn't build this peer-to-peer, who else would? So that kind of makes sense.
I'm so curious because another thing that we look at is company culture, right? So as a startup, you're concentrating on many things. What do you think is the success to building a great corporate culture? What are the elements to that recipe?
So transparency is key. You need to be able to tell your fellow members, and especially if you're in an executive role, you have to be really clear as to what they need to be aspiring for, what their goals are, where we are at. So really being transparent. I'm a big believer in just open policy, open door, open communication. I don't like a lot of sort of backbiting or things, and we are small, so things will get around. So I confront everything and sort of make sure things are resolved. The other thing we do is to just have we are a virtual company. So again, how do you leverage that when everyone is in their own homes or spaces? We don't meet necessarily. So we have Monday team meetings, and we'll come together as a team, the entire company, which is small still. And we'll have, the first thing we do, and this is not my idea, but my colleagues, is to do like a round of gratitudes. What are you grateful for this week or last week? Something in the business, something personal, and it's fun. I mean, it makes the team meeting go longer, but that's a good thing, because people come up with the most, funny and sort of witty and just deep thoughts around what gratitude means to them, and we connect in ways that we may not otherwise. So I think there are some little cultures. We have also created a book club now. In a virtual company, we have a virtual book club. And we all read about a topic or a book that's relevant to our business. And then we come together and collaborate on that and talk about it. So little things like that, taking those worlds and bringing it together. Our employees need to feel like they're contributing to the bottom line. In a startup, it's very easy to do that because you can very, very visibly see, and oftentimes you're connecting to the customers in some form or the other. In a big company, it's a lot harder. The more they know that what they do matters to the end user, the happier they're going to be, and we're all going to be. So I think that's important in setting the culture and tone.
I think it's so interesting. So how many employees do you have?
So right now we have about 10 to 15 plus or minus, so it's small. And we, again, going by that thing, we stayed frugal and small to grow big later. But that's how we work together.
At what point do you think you'll be like, this is not small? What's your goal to say, we're no longer a small company, we're no longer sort of emerging? What is there a metric for you?
I think it'll probably be more in the scale of our work rather than the people. As it is, people say you're 10, but you do the work of 50. It looks like you're a 50 company, sized company. I think it's just sort of the energy of the team. So I don't think there's a number necessarily. I think it's sort of the impact is probably the best metric. And we may never grow as much in size, but we may partner in ways that allow us to have that great impact. So to me, that would be a success of the mission.
I love it. I'm going to take a moment. We're at 10-minute mark. I'll open it back up to the audience. Any great questions? Wait. Yeah. We come in with you.
Everyone's running with the microphone.
Hi, my name is Manuel. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So you were talking about having partnerships and finding good company, help people who really want to help you. And that's something I've been struggled for a long time. And I've been just waiting and waiting to see which one of my friends, the ones that I consider they could work with me, wants to actually do it. And it seems like I am the one who is really actually willing to put all the effort on and all the attention on my project. So would you think that it's okay or it's common to start by yourself and then along the way find other partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you have a burning need and a desire and you can't wait to get started, go ahead. But be open. And I did not resist finding a co-founder. I just didn't find one when I was looking, and I was again in a hurry to get started. But yeah, you never want to be with someone who isn't matching up to your energy level or your passion. And also they need to be complementary in skills, all of that good stuff. But definitely the passion. You never want to, because I didn't talk about all the ways in which co-founders have had falling outs. You know all the stories, the public ones and the not so public ones. I don't have those stories, but yeah, so start it, don't wait. And also you can have, the other thing I started to do, but I didn't do as good a job in the beginning, was surround yourself with advisory team members. Like people, again, who have done this before, who love your idea. Like pitch the idea to them, you'll see lights, their face lights up, they want to be part of this somehow, how can I help, right? Sometimes you give them equity, maybe not, that's not necessary all the time. Have them come along with you for the ride, right? Meet with them over coffee or the group once every couple of weeks. That energy is plenty for you to get going for a while at least. Yeah. I have hands and questions.
It's wonderful.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. So you talked about like the energy you have like for your business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person. I wake up in the morning. And I'm a dreamer. I have lots of ideas, but like every day, me and my roommate, we just sit and play video games.
I know.
Like, at the end of the day, we're happy. We had a good day, but like I kind of feel disappointed because I have all these ideas.
Yeah.
But like I don't have the energy really to put into them. Like what advice do you have to like get the energy to get your ideas out there?
So you may be someone who is, again, with any business entity, you have the thinker and then the doer. And you often need 2 or 3 different types of energies. Your energy is completely valid because if you don't have that innovation, there can be a ton of doers. But if you're not thinking out of the box, which you probably are, that is what is going to be the killer idea of tomorrow, right? So if you know that that's a quote-unquote weakness, find someone with the energy whom you can partner with, right? To at least, move it to the next step. Yeah, you're going to have dime a dozen. Take 1 or 2. If you're not happy with just doing 1, take 2 for a bit, for a ride, right? Is there an MVP in it? And there's enough of frameworks for building things that you can apply some of that. If it's a software, then talk to a lot of other entrepreneurs. Sometimes you might just get the energy talking to some people like us because we get excited, and you might just say, why am I just lying around doing nothing? Let me go do this stuff, right? So my 2 suggestions would be: 1, don't stop dreaming, because we need those dreams to make great ideas, right? So those dreams matter. And second, either talk to others to sort of get the energy, or partner and take 1 or 2 and take it a certain way. And when you start to test it out and get excitement from others, that'll feed off on you. But we don't want that wasted in your mind. So get out there.
Thank you.
I recommend you come to a Startup Weekend on the 18th, 19th, and 20th. You can sign up on Eventbrite. If you use student code STUDENT, you get a discount. So,
And to be clear, Aaron, if you don't have your own idea, but you just love the idea of joining up with others and working
Yes.
on someone else's idea, you would be welcome to join at Startup Weekend, correct?
100%.
Beautiful.
Also, you may join a team that's winning, and like last year, you could get a lifetime supply of animal crackers.
Other questions out there?
Yes.
Just one moment.
Yeah, they have to.
Brandon, you got it?
So you've been saying about all the pros of having a co-founder
Not me.
and how having multiple people working together generates more ideas.
Yeah.
Would you say there was any situation in which not having a co-founder allowed you to succeed?
I could move faster. I didn't have to get consensus and buy-in, except maybe from my investors. But so sometimes you have to move fast and in a split second make some decisions that would be hard if you had to try and build consensus. And so far, I think there have been some where I've had missteps, but many where I have not in the big picture. So that feels okay. I don't think it's as much a decision piece for the co-founder. It's more about the lonely journey. I think it's really, really lonely because of, just the nature of the thing. The first year you're an incubator, accelerator, everything seems, awesome. And then you start the long drudging road of what next, and money, and, people, and all of that stuff. So that's what. But again, to the point, start if you have an idea, collaborate. And if you don't feel comfortable making them a co-founder, make them an advisor, make them just part of the team in some ways. You don't have to commit to it. But know that as a founder, you have tremendous responsibility. So be ready to shoulder that. And then yours will be success.
One more question.
Yeah, certainly. Is it right up here?
I think we have another one.
We can probably fit it.
We can probably fit it. We can totally fit it.
My name is Narinj. I just want to ask, as a woman entrepreneur, what were the big challenges that you had to face? And also, how did you balance your work as a CEO and your other responsibilities, for example, in your family? Yeah.
All right, great, thanks. So, firstly, I have to say the National Science Foundation and other grant opportunities have a particular sort of emphasis on minority and women entrepreneurs, right? So to sort of encourage and motivate that. So I went for it, and obviously we had a great idea. We wouldn't have gotten and we wouldn't have sustained it otherwise. So look for opportunities, especially funding in these ways that are underscoring, your diversity piece. The thing that sort of was a barrier, I think, is again with investors in the early stages when you have nothing but an idea, your confidence is what matters, right? Not that what you have is awesome, but that I'm going to make a lot of money for you with this, right? And in my case, and I don't know if it's a female thing or just a me thing, I wanted the validation myself first before I could convince the investors. So I wanted to sort of know that I could make it, and I didn't feel comfortable saying this would make you an awesome amount of money when I didn't have proof points. So I didn't want to bullshit, to be exact.
Fair.
As a result, I think I lost out on some of those investment dollars because I wasn't confident enough in presenting the opportunity, right? So that's something I would do differently, not necessarily, again, bullshitting, but sort of strongly believing, because what do investors care about? They want to know that the idea is great, that it can get a lot of money, and that you are the right person with the team to do it. That's all. So I don't think they were sitting there judging woman, man, whatever. They were just thinking, do you have the confidence because we are giving you the money? Later on, of course, I learned that. I do think we have, and again, I don't want to make this a gender thing, but there's definitely a lot of, ways in which I can negotiate partnerships and other opportunities that I think my EQ is pretty strong. I don't think it's a woman or a man thing. I think it's just a individual person thing, and that's huge. That's so important. The relationships you build. When again, these partners are talking to so many companies. I've literally had people say, wow, we get calls every day from math companies asking to talk to us, but we want to talk to you. And these are conversations I have virtually. I don't fly out to meet with them. So many of these conversations are just through Skype, through Zoom, things like that. So you've got to build those relationships without ever knowing the person. So I think that, I look at it as an asset, whether it's a female asset or my asset, I don't know. Balancing work life. I mean, we've had the cadence from my first job. I quit because I had my first child, so I became a podcaster. I did things from the home, and then I went back into. I do think CueThink is my third child and my most difficult child. It has kept me up at nights a lot more than my first two. My first is 15. My second daughter is 12, and here is CueThink, and I'm still sort of figuring it out, right?
More troublesome than teenagers.
More troublesome than the teenagers, but also more satisfying in some ways. So yes, you get your community and your family to sort of help with the journey. My kids are also very involved in the company in that they just see me working and they know sort of what that takes. So they're trying to become entrepreneurs too. So it's all good, I think, in the end if you can figure out a way to make it work. I have a great team, guys. That's the fundamental truth. I hope they're listening because they are holding down the fort while I'm here, and that's so important. The joy comes from knowing that team is cohesive and cares, in the way. And I'll give myself some credit for having worked hard to put that team together. We've had to weed out a couple of people, but most of them have stayed with us through the whole journey. It surprises me every day that they're here sticking it out. They could go to any company and get the best of the best, bonuses, everything. They're not doing this for equity and a great payout in the end. They're doing it for the fundamental reason that they believe this is an important solution. So go out there and conquer the world, I guess. Go.
Last question. You got
Yeah, go ahead.
it.
This better be good.
Lots of pressure.
Lots of pressure.
So you have a lot of expertise when it comes to not only technology, but also education. You have experience in both fields. And so you previously described your company as something of a supplemental tool, but you also worked for Pearson, which is ubiquitous in a lot of education landscapes. Where do you see the future of technology and education? Do you see teachers being supplanted at some point, or is there a coexistence that you can see in the future?
Yes, great question. Great last question. I better have a good answer. So yes, I did work at Pearson briefly. They are one of the biggest in the business. I did cut my teeth, as I said, in the first company that I talked about, Cast. But I think technology will continue to morph. There was a period where they said it will all be virtual, online learning, right? MOOCs, the massive online education, that's going to take over. Did not happen. I know MSU has a virtual university. You have a lot of interesting things going on. I think the human connection is going to become more important than ever. So it's actually going to reverse in that you're going to have, teachers. They may morph. They may not look like the teachers or have the skills of the teachers of today necessarily, but you're going to have that human element no matter what technology, which means there's no supplanting. I think it's definitely coexisting. But I think it's also going to change how open resources are thought of. That's huge in higher education. It's also coming into K-12. That content is a commodity. It should be free, and then it's otherwise too expensive to get textbooks and so on. So technology has a very interesting sort of place with AI and so many other things. I think it's going to take on a very different tack. But the human connection and the sort of value that relationships bring is going to be even bigger, not less.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sheela.
All right, great.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you for coming tonight.
Fantastic questions.
Thank you so much. Can we give her a round of applause? She's a